After being married for 3 years, I still haven't become pregnant. My husband really wants a child, but secretly he has been involved with his first love. The mistress came to confront me and demanded that I leave. Without hesitation, I packed my bags and left. At my husband's wedding banquet, I planned to give him a surprise. I was a college classmate of Damon Hale, and after dating for 4 years we finally entered into marriage. After the wedding, I worked hard to improve my health and planned to get pregnant. However, things did not go as I hoped, and I have not been able to conceive. My husband took some time off to accompany me to the hospital for an examination. The test results revealed that he has azoospermia. He will never be able to have his own children in this life. When I received the report, I was shocked. I secretly hid the medical report, afraid to tell my husband the truth. To avoid hurting his feelings, I chose to lie and told him that I had seen his medical report and that everything was normal. The doctor told me that my fallopian tubes are blocked, which could make getting pregnant difficult. My husband comforted me and suggested I see a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner to help regulate my body. As for the matter of pregnancy, we decided to take it as it comes. After getting married, we respected each other, and our relationship was good. However, over time, my husband became increasingly indifferent towards me. He started working overtime frequently and didn't come home at night. At the company's annual meeting, my husband got incredibly drunk and was brought home by a woman. There were obvious lipstick marks on his white shirt. Lyra Quinn provocatively said, "Damon got drunk and I helped bring him home. Your sister-in-law shouldn't mind, right?" I pretended not to understand and replied, "Thank you for bringing him back." Before she could finish speaking, I slammed the door shut. I could imagine the look of anger on the woman's face outside. My husband, drunk beyond measure, fell asleep as soon as he entered the room. At that moment, a new message popped up on his phone screen. The text contained only a few words. "Damon, I didn't take my medication that night. Betrayal is like a sharp blade that deeply pierces my heart. I feel a chill, and my whole being has become incredibly cold. In the 3rd year of our marriage, my husband betrayed me. He is the sales department manager, and often stays out late due to work-related engagements. One day, he left his documents at home, and I immediately took a taxi to deliver them to him. I pushed open the door to the private room and saw Lyra on tiptoe, kissing Damon. Damon didn't pull away. She nearly lost her balance and fell, but he quickly reached out to wrap his arm around her waist, his movement gentle and contrasting sharply with his cold demeanor towards me. To the side were Damon's old classmates from high school, who seemed accustomed to such scenes. Lyra wore a white dress, her eyes bright and reflecting an innocent purity. It seems that the person who sent the provocative message last night was not her. "Alarache, what are you doing here?" she suddenly asked, drawing the attention of everyone present. Lyra hurriedly walked over from beside Damon, eager to explain to me, "Alara, don't misunderstand. I lost a game of truth or dare, and they made me kiss a guy. The only one I knew was Damon, who casually wiped the lipstick mark off his face without feeling embarrassed at all. He told me he was with a client, but he was actually lying to me." My heart felt a tightness like being tangled in vines, making it increasingly hard to breathe. I clenched my fists, wondering if he even knew that I was aware he was already married. Lyra shrank back like a frightened fawn, hiding behind the man. Damon stood in front of her, as if it were just a game of truth or dare, and didn't need to be taken so seriously. "You scared her," he said. The girl hid behind the man, shooting me a challenging glare. I chuckled lightly, thinking they were having quite the fun. Why not let me join in? Watching the argument between his ex and his current partner, Damon handled it with ease. He leisurely asked Alara, "How do you want to play?" I decided to raise the stakes. The winner could ask the loser a question, and if the loser refused to answer, they would have to punish themselves with 3 drinks. Lyra looked at the man beside her and said, almost pleadingly, "Damon, I can't handle my liquor well." I smiled and asked, "What's the matter, aren't you brave enough?" To maintain her confidence, Little White Flower agreed to the bet. Sure enough, she lost in the first round. I calmly asked, "Miss Quinn, did you come back this time to reconcile with Damon?" Lyra didn't expect me to be so straightforward in my questioning. She tightly grasped her skirt, picked up the glass and took a gulp. The strong alcohol instantly caught in her throat. I felt a pang of sympathy, so I downed the remaining 2 glasses for her. I stopped him and turned to Lyra. Miss Quinn, can't you accept defeat? When she dodged the question, I already knew the answer. She wasn't having much luck. She lost again in the second round. I stared into Damon's eyes and asked Miss Quinn, have you been with him? Everyone present perked up, listening intently. Damon suddenly grabbed my wrist with considerable force. Alara, don't go too far. I blinked. She was kissing someone else's husband in public, so who was really going too far? Damon's grip suddenly tightened, causing me pain. The surrounding former classmates all looked on with interest. Lyra's eyes were red, resembling a frostbitten crabapple blossom, making one want to protect her. Damon held Lyra's hand and left the private room amidst a flurry of discussions. As they passed by me, Lyra gave a smug smile. She looked at me with a gaze full of provocation and a hint of disdain. The group of people behind her whispered among themselves, saying that Lyra had returned this time to get back together with Damon. If Damon and Lyra reconcile, what will happen to Alara? What can she do? Of course, the only option is to get a divorce. I returned home in despair, and my phone received a friend request from Lyra. She mentioned in her friend verification that Alara, my husband, and I are together. My period has already been delayed for half a month this time. At that time, Lyra was living with her foster mother in a small, damp rental while relying on my family's support to complete her university studies. Even though she knew Damon was my fiancé, she still confessed her feelings to him and even developed feelings for him. Later, Damon's mother found out about this and was strongly against them being together. That year, Damon drank heavily every day, even drinking to the point of stomach bleeding, nearly causing a serious incident. In the end, he listened to his parents' wishes and decided to marry me. That night, Damon personally took Lyra home. Lyra used his phone to send me a message, her tone filled with provocation. In the photo she sent, Damon was peacefully sleeping on her bed, looking handsome in profile. He always sleeps restlessly beside my pillow. For him, I gave up my own career and dedicated myself to taking care of my parents-in-law at home. Over the years, I have tried hard to fulfill the role of a good wife and keep the household in order, but Damon still doesn't love me. After 3 years of marriage, I have not been able to conceive. Damon comes home later and later, and his attitude towards me grows increasingly indifferent. He and Lyra reunited after a long time apart, and their feelings for each other quickly intensified. Damon bought a house outside and secretly hid his young lover there. However, Lyra was an ambitious girl who didn't want to be an unrecognized third party. One sunny afternoon, she came to his house while pregnant. I was resting in the backyard when I felt someone moving in front of me, and only then did I lazily open my eyes. Lyra slightly protruded her small belly, her expression confident. Alara, I'm already pregnant with Damon's child, so you'd better vacate Mrs. Hale's position. I looked at her belly and asked casually, Lyra, are you sure the baby in your belly is Damon's? A hint of panic flashed in her eyes, but she still maintained her composure on the surface. Of course it's Damon's. Who else could it be? I didn't expose her lies. Is this how you repay me after the Shea family helped you complete your college education? Lyra pretended to apologize to me, saying, Alara, I really appreciate the help from the Shea family, but these things are separate. Feelings cannot be forced, and you won't find happiness with Damon. I looked at her coldly and asked, you use the banner of true love to intervene in someone else's marriage, and you don't feel ashamed at all? As a third party, aren't you afraid of being condemned? Lyra shamelessly claimed that it is the unloved person who is the real disgraceful third party. She took someone else's husband without a shred of guilt, and even flaunted it as a badge of honor. The Shea family, feeling sorry for her as an orphan, helped her wholeheartedly to complete her education, but little did they expect her to turn against them. Perhaps it was due to her long struggle at the bottom of society that she dreamed of marrying into a wealthy family to achieve a leap in social status. I raised my hand and slapped her. Though it wasn't very forceful, she still stumbled backward. In the next moment, Damon caught Lyra securely, his eyes filled with anger. He directly questioned me, Alara, what are you doing? Before I could respond, Lyra's eyes brimmed with tears, looking very aggrieved. Damon, she knows I'm pregnant with your child. She's so jealous that she's lost her mind and actually wants to hurt our baby. Damon only heard her words and believed that I wanted to harm his son. Alara, if Lyra's child has any issues, I won't let this go. I was knocked down and it hurt a lot. It took me a while to get back up. Damon, are you so sure that the child in her womb is yours? Don't be an unaware pawn. The man threw the divorce agreement at me. The Hale family's legacy must not be broken. Alara, let's get a divorce. Damon, eager to protect the one he loves from any distress, hurriedly proposed the divorce. I didn't say much. Instead, I simply agreed. After the divorce, I indeed received a wedding invitation from my ex-husband. For his remarriage banquet, I decided to give him a special gift. At my ex-husband's wedding reception, I attended in style. Lyra, wearing a beautiful wedding dress, proudly walked up to me. She said, Alara, why have you received love and care from your parents since birth, while I was abandoned in a dark place and suffered? I worked hard and got into the best university. But no matter how much I strive for success, I can't compare to the starting point of someone like you, a wealthy girl. I am beginning to feel that fate is unfair. I swear to take everything from you, including your friends and loved ones. I listened quietly to her story and ultimately came to a conclusion. A white-eyed wolf can never be raised with affection. Damon and the guests were deep in conversation, wearing expressions of great pride. I still remember how he acted aloof and put on airs in front of the guests when we first got married, completely disregarding the feelings of the Shea family. In a daze, I noticed that tall figure had already approached. Damon warned me in a cold tone, Alara, if anything goes wrong at my wedding, I won't let you off easily. I smiled slightly, actually hoping that you and Lyra could confirm your relationship soon. After all, they are the most suited for each other. Lyra feigned a casual demeanor and said, Sister Alara, are you still upset about me being with Damon? If it weren't for your pregnancy and the Hale family needing an heir, Damon wouldn't have divorced you. My former mother-in-law also advised me to be more understanding, saying, Alara, a marriage without children to sustain it is ultimately difficult to last. Lyra is on the same wavelength as him and is expecting his child, so just let them be happy together. After marrying into the Hale family, I managed the household well and helped Damon considerably with his business. With the support of the Shea family, Damon's business flourished. He reconciled with his first love and quickly discarded me, his former wife. Damon held his young and beautiful wife close, and I could sense a hint of disdain in his gaze. Alara, I gave you $5 million as a settlement during the divorce, and that's my limit. I continued, take this money and go get a thorough checkup at the hospital. Maybe there will be a man willing to be with you. I calmly pulled a medical report from my bag and tossed it in front of him. Damon, take a good look. I can't have children. Whose problem is it really? My ex-husband saw his test results, which stated azoospermia. He sneered and said, do you think you can fool me with a fake report? Mrs. Hale also saw the report and immediately thought I had forged it. They believed I deliberately presented a false report to sabotage the wedding. Alara, I admit that the Hale family has treated you unfairly. You cannot present a false report that would embarrass the Shea family. Now, I have decided to no longer hide the truth and will speak it plainly. The medical report is genuine. Damon will never be able to make a woman pregnant in his lifetime. I have endured so much pressure for years and I am truly tired of the outside accusations. The pain and struggles involved are something only I truly understand. Damon pointed at Lyra's belly, trying to prove that she was carrying his child. He said to Alara, you're lying. Although Lyra pretended to be indifferent, the anxiety in her eyes inadvertently revealed her true feelings. Damon added, Alara is definitely trying to hurt you with a fake report out of jealousy for your happiness. Damon, you mustn't believe what she's saying. The guests present whispered among themselves, their discussions rising and falling. I slowly took out my phone and dialed Dr. Chen's number. To ensure everyone could hear clearly, I turned on the speakerphone. Dr. Chen, is there a mistake in Damon's test results? Does he really have azoospermia? The guests present listened intently. Dr. Chan said firmly, Mrs. Hale, the reports provided by our hospital are authoritative and will never be wrong. I pretended to be panicked and asked Dr. Chan, does this mean Damon will never have his own children? Dr. Chan replied very firmly, Mr. Hale will never be able to have his own children. Mrs. Hale was initially lost in a beautiful dream, when it was suddenly shattered by the harsh reality. She turned pale with anger and nearly fainted. Lyra attempted to argue, Damon, she colluded with the doctor to deceive you. She had terminated the life of the child in her womb, who was supposed to be the heir of the Hale family. The guests exchanged glances and murmured among themselves. Mrs. Hale's long-awaited grandson turns out not to be a child of the Hale family. If the baby in the bride's womb isn't the groom's, whose could it possibly be? Everyone must be speculating that the bride could have been involved with other men, resulting in her pregnancy, and now she wants Damon to take responsibility. Listening to the discussions around him, Damon feels incredibly embarrassed and wishes he could find a place to hide. The doctor had told him that he would never be able to make a woman pregnant in his lifetime, which was a devastating blow for him. He got what he wished for and married the one he loved, but it all turned into a ridiculous joke. Damon stared at me. Alara, you knew all along that the child Lyra is expecting isn't mine. You deliberately kept quiet just to see me make a fool of myself, didn't you? I blinked innocently, suggesting that I had hinted at it many times, but he didn't pay any attention at all. Can I really be blamed for that? He loved Lyra and chose to believe her without any reservations. He doesn't love me, so there's no point in me saying anything more. Lyra grabbed the man's sleeve, tears welling up in her eyes. She's lying, Damon. Don't listen to her. The baby in my belly is yours. I scoffed. Since you say the baby is Damon's, are you brave enough to go to the hospital for a prenatal test? Whether it's true or not, it can easily be found out. Lyra said that prenatal testing could affect the fetus's intelligence, so it should not be done. Her tone made me feel that she was hiding something. Is it because prenatal testing is not allowed? Or is she afraid of the results? Once the test is conducted, her lies will be exposed. Lyra gently said, Damon, you care so much about me, don't you trust me? Damon responded with a look of disappointment, saying, the doctor told me that I will never be able to have children in my lifetime. I love you, but I'm not a fool. Lyra felt a bit anxious and added, Alara is trying to sow discord, can't you see that? Damon, being so intelligent, might be momentarily blinded by love, but he is definitely not a fool. He can see who is lying with just one glance. Lyra, the situation is already like this, do you still want to deceive me? Lyra glared at me angrily and said sharply, Alara, you hate me for taking your man, so you're fabricating lies to slander me. Spreading rumors is illegal, and you better get ready to go to jail. She was merely bluffing, thinking she could easily resolve this. I let out a soft laugh and said, then hurry up and report it to the police. Whether or not someone has defamed you, the police will naturally make a judgment. Lyra nervously held her phone, not daring to call the police. I laughed and asked her why she didn't report it. She certainly didn't dare to, as making it public would greatly impact her reputation. To keep her silent, I presented her with definitive evidence. The screen displayed a video of her on a date with a man, and the content was unsettling. The man questioned her with visible dissatisfaction. Lyra, how can you let my son call someone else dad? Lyra playfully replied, I'm not really letting him call someone else dad. I'm just looking for a good background for him. She thought to herself that no matter who her son called dad, their blood relation would never change. The Hale family's wealth ultimately belongs to our son. If you want your son to come back, just get a paternity test done. Damon felt like a fool for being manipulated by Lyra. Lyra, you had been plotting against me from the very beginning. In the end, the Hale family canceled the wedding banquet. Lyra's dream of marrying into a wealthy family was completely shattered. The things she had obtained were like quicksand, impossible to hold on to, and in the end, she would have nothing. She returned to the damp, cold, and cramped rental apartment, continuing her dim and dreary life. Lyra had given birth to a baby girl in the hospital, almost losing her life due to severe bleeding. The father, dissatisfied that the child was a girl, considered her a burden and immediately sent the baby away. Lyra desperately pleaded, hoping to get her child back. Having just given birth, her body was weak, and she seemed very fragile. The man ignored her desperate pleas and insisted on having a son, but as a result, she gave birth to a daughter, which was truly infuriating. Seeing Lyra in such a predicament, I felt a surge of vengeful excitement. I happened to be there at her most embarrassing moment. Alara, are you here to watch me make a fool of myself? Lyra's eyes were filled with resentment. I smiled faintly, Those who do bad things will always face consequences. Isn't her current situation something she brought upon herself? Lyra glared at me resentfully, knowing she was just one step away from marrying into a wealthy family and becoming a rich wife. Alara, you are the one who has ruined everything for me. A woman who constantly does wrong, unwilling to reflect on herself, always shifts the blame onto others. I couldn't help but laugh. It was almost like hearing a joke. Lyra, that feeling was stolen by you in the first place. How could you expect it to last? You had Damon wrapped around your finger. But there are no secrets in this world that will never be revealed. Lyra's eyes were filled with resentment. You already knew that the child in my womb was not Damon's, but you're not in a hurry to expose my lie. Do you want to see me embarrass myself at the wedding? I playfully winked and said that I would prepare a big gift for you both on your wedding day. Are you satisfied with this grand gift? Lyra's shoulders trembled slightly. Alara, seeing me in such a situation, you must be happy, right? Seeing her in such misery, I couldn't help but tell her an even crueler truth. Your newborn daughter was sold by your boyfriend for 50,000 yuan. Lyra's shoulders began to tremble even more. It was too outrageous. I showed her the screenshot of the police report I had filed. Selling babies is a serious crime, and I've already reported it for you. The man she relied on will now have to spend his future in prison. After the fallout with Lyra, Damon called me many times. I quickly deleted his contact information and blocked him, watching him disappear from my call log. For love, I had given up my career, but now I've decided to return to the workforce. I graduated from the University of Southern California with a degree in architecture, and some of my designs during school received international awards. Once a promising individual, I lost my direction due to love and suffered significant setbacks in my career. My former boss called me, saying that if I was willing, I could return to work any time. I used to be the director of construction projects, and he is the owner of a publicly listed company. I have strong professional skills, and he has repeatedly hoped that I would join his team. However, I remained loyal to my company and declined his invitations. Later, a key project of the company incurred losses, leading to financial difficulties. The HR department informed me that the company would be downsizing to improve efficiency, and the executives were leading by example. My name was included in the layoff list, and the promised project bonuses were also not given to me. I had dedicated many years to the company, and the projects I was responsible for were among the few profitable ones, but the boss ruthlessly let me go. Essentially, the boss cut many of the company's high-salary employees, including some core technical staff. I felt disappointed and quietly packed my things to leave the company. Elias Cross learned about my layoff, and immediately offered me a high salary with excellent benefits. I couldn't resist the temptation of the lucrative offer, and officially joined Shea Enterprises. During my time there, Elias valued me greatly and entrusted me with the group's most important projects. I also didn't let him down. Just when my career was flourishing, I met Damon. He was charming and had a great sense of humor, able to win girls over easily. He pursued me openly, and within 6 months, I willingly resigned from my job to become a stay-at-home wife. However, it turned out that my sacrifice was nothing but a joke. After we got married, he continued to keep in touch with his ex, and they were seeing each other privately. The sweet nothings before marriage were merely his tactics. On my first day back at work, Elias personally took me to my position. My office was unchanged, right across from the president's office. I could easily see Elias's stern face when he was working. Each time our eyes met unintentionally, my heart would race. My colleagues are spreading rumors that Elias and I are secretly dating. At work, he takes good care of me, and he always brings me along on business trips. Gradually, rumors about my close relationship with my boss have started circulating in the company. This time he invited me back with a high salary, and I expect people will start speculating again. After a week on the job, I quickly adapted to the work, and things are progressing smoothly. The project team I was responsible for quickly turned a profit, and my colleagues praised my performance highly. At the celebration party, my coworkers took turns inviting me to drink. To my surprise, my boss proactively shielded me from drinking too much. After a few drinks, Elias seemed a bit tipsy, and his gaze became intense. I felt myself blushing under his stare. The colleagues exchanged glances in silence, and soon the private room was left with just Elias and me. Perhaps due to the effects of alcohol, Elias slowly leaned closer to me, and then his lips touched mine. That night, Elias finally revealed the secret he had kept hidden for many years. He had actually been in love with me, and had been looking for an opportunity to confess his feelings. However, Damon had made his move first, leaving Elias to watch helplessly as the girl he loved married someone else. He had been single for all these years. After learning about my divorce, his once quiet heart began to stir, and he decided to confess his feelings to me. This time he didn't want to miss out again. That night we drank a lot and ultimately lost control. When I woke up, the room was in chaos, with clothes scattered all over the floor. I quickly put on my clothes. Mr. Cross, we are all adults here, and this was a mutual decision. You don't need to take on any responsibility. Let's just pretend last night never happened. Elias tightened his grip on my wrist, looking at me earnestly, but the events had already taken place. Alara, I am willing to take responsibility. I had no response to that. Mr. Cross, I won't cling to a man just because we were together, nor will I shout that I'm willing to dedicate myself. My body, I make my own choices. Elias spoke in a low voice. Alara, I've liked you for many years. Can you give me a chance to pursue you? He pays a lot of attention to his physique and his looks match my taste. However, experiencing the same mistake twice is indeed quite unfortunate. I smiled slightly and said, Mr. Cross, a woman can be without a man, but a career is essential. You can be my boss, but you can't be my partner. Once bitten, twice shy. Elias saw my concerns. I'm not the same as Damon, so don't compare me to him. I playfully winked, but they insisted that all men are pretty much the same. When I encountered Damon again, he was the project manager representing the other party in negotiations with Mr. Cross, while I was the representative from our side responsible for receiving him. Damon looked at my professional outfit and suddenly recalled the first time he met me. He smiled and said, Alara, I was really impressed the first time I saw you in professional attire. I gave him an indifferent look and stated straightforwardly, Mr. Hale, if you are here to discuss a collaboration, then let's get to the point. If you are looking to reminisce, please leave. Damon grabbed my wrist and asked seriously, why did you block my contact information? I quietly pulled my hand back. As a qualified ex, I should act as if I don't exist. Isn't it annoying that I didn't block your contact? He pretended to want to discuss a collaboration, but in reality he was just trying to entangle me. Damon apologized to me on the surface, saying, Alara, you've suffered so much and I had no idea. He looked frustrated, saying that if it weren't for you exposing Lyra's lies, he might still be in the dark. Under the influence of public opinion, the stock price of the Hale family plummeted, and their previous investors began to withdraw their funding. The president of the Hale family was forced to lower his stance and seek collaboration, but he had been rejected multiple times. Damon realized that due to the public sentiment, the Hale family's stock price had fallen to a very low level. If they could not secure sponsorship soon, the Hale family could face bankruptcy. Alara, you wouldn't want to see the Hale family go under, would you? I looked at him coldly. What does the fate of the Hale family have to do with me? From the moment I signed the divorce agreement, I had nothing to do with the Hale family anymore. Damon emotionally appealed to me, saying that the Hale family had grown from a small company to what it is today thanks to the support of the Shea family. Can you bear to see the hard work of the Shea family collapse overnight? I let out a cold laugh and said, Damon, you really have some nerve. Isn't the crisis facing the Hale family you're doing? How dare you try to manipulate me with morality? It's just ridiculous. Unfortunately, I'm not falling for it. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Damon grew anxious and exclaimed, Alara, I may have been blinded, but I was also deceived by others. Could you not give me a chance to turn over a new leaf? I scoffed aloud, Mr. Hale, you are like a rat in a filthy gutter, disgusting. No, you are even more unpleasant than those rats. Thinking of his insincere demeanor makes me feel sick. The man saw me and, unbothered, forcibly hugged me. Alara, I love you, please come back to me. Elias appeared like a gust of wind, filled with fury. I suddenly felt light as I fell into his warm, broad embrace. Damon, how dare you harass a female employee on Mr. Cross's territory? Damon seemed to have an epiphany and said, Alara, no wonder you look down on people, it turns out you're aiming higher. I felt very uncomfortable and slapped him. Damon, stop saying things like that. Do you know why I disdain you? Because in your eyes, women are merely accessories to men. If they stand out in any way, they are met with malicious suspicion. In his view, women are not worthy of respect. Damon said with a hint of disdain, Alara, who knows if you got your executive position by other means? Before I could react, Elias threw a punch. He said, it's ridiculous for a man like you, who disrespects women, to think you can secure investment. After being hit, Damon was instantly jolted back to reality. I know I made a mistake that any man could make, Alara. Can't you forgive me just this once? Please say something nice to Mr. Cross on my behalf? I unflinchingly refused, Damon, I don't want to and won't help you. This is what you deserve. Damon's face instantly turned pale. Do you really hate me that much? Do you really think you would be satisfied only if the Hale family goes bankrupt? He assumed that I would help him out of old feelings. But this time he was mistaken. I put on an innocent face, but the outcome for the Hale family today is something you brought upon yourself. Have you forgotten? Damon's eyes were hazy, and his expression was one of despair, as if he had lost his soul. He shed tears of remorse, saying, Alara, I have done many things to hurt you, and now I am facing the consequences. If the Hale family cannot escape their predicament, it must be a punishment from the heavens for me. Those men's sweet words, thinking they could soften my heart and shake my resolve. Unfortunately, I am no longer soft-hearted. Elias didn't want Damon to keep persuading him and said directly, Mr. Hale, please leave. Damon seemed not to hear and had no intention of leaving. Elias bluntly stated, if you don't leave, I'll have security escort you out. Damon appeared embarrassed and eventually left in a fluster. A few banks came to demand repayment, and the Hale family, unable to withstand the pressure of their debts, declared bankruptcy and liquidation. The news about the head of Hale Corporation having an extramarital affair has sparked heated discussions online, leading to increasing criticism. Many users flocked to Damon's social media accounts, quickly overwhelming the comments section. Unable to withstand the attacks, he had no choice but to deactivate his social media account. Now he appears very anxious, like a rat in a gutter. My social media account's comments section has also been affected, but most of the feedback has been praise and positive reviews. My sister is truly beautiful. My sister is so brave. Long live divorce. Goodbye, bad men. The harsh winter has passed, and the warm spring is quietly arriving. The air was filled with the fragrance of flowers and grass, carrying a sense of freedom. In the distance, under a crabapple tree, stood a tall figure wearing glasses, gazing at me gently. I jogged over, hearing the faint sounds of breathing and a heartbeat in my ears. The corners of his lips turned up slightly, and his voice was pleasant to hear. He asked me, Alara, are you really not planning to go out with me? My eyes were slightly moist. I have been divorced, and my personality isn't the best. I will be more cautious when it comes to marriage. You really shouldn't waste your time on me. Elias gently lifted my face, his expression more serious than I had ever seen. I respect your decision. If you don't want to get married, having a romantic relationship is also a good option. My heart raced, the gloom in my heart faded away, and a long-lost smile appeared on my face. Elias, for you, I'm willing to be brave once again.